There is one reason your money has not come, and it is not what you think. You are carrying it. You are gripping it too tightly. And tonight, Florence Scovel Shinn is going to show you how to set it down and let your good flow in. Florence taught a strange and powerful truth. The struggle itself is what blocks you. So let us begin. The premise is simple. Psalm 55:22 says, "Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee." Read that again. Cast thy burden. You are told to hand the weight over, not to carry it, not to strain under it, but to release it completely. And Florence understood exactly why this matters for money. She taught that a mind heavy with worry cannot receive, that the very anxiety you feel about your lack is what holds the lack in place. The tighter you grip, the more it stays away. Most people try to force their good to come. They push, they strain, they worry it into being, and it never works, because the pushing is the problem. And here is what makes this so hard to see. The burden feels like it is helping. The worry feels like responsibility. The strain feels like effort toward a solution. So you never think to set it down. You think carrying it harder is the answer. But it is the trap. Tonight you learn to cast the burden down and go free. Here is the sentence. Speak it with me, softly. I cast this burden and go free. My good flows to me now. My word is my wand. Say it again. Feel the weight lift as you speak. I cast this burden and go free. My good flows to me now. My word is my wand. Feel that. You are setting something down. You are not carrying the worry anymore. You are handing it over and stepping back. And the moment you feel that release, you understand why holding on so tightly kept your good away. If those words moved something in you, scroll down right now and write, I cast this burden and go free. Your comment is your first act of release, and it joins everyone setting down their burden tonight. Now let me give you the first piece, which is why carrying the burden is the very thing that blocks your money. Because Florence taught that anxiety and supply cannot occupy the same space. When you are gripped by worry about money, when you are anxious and straining and afraid, you are in a state of lack, and the outer world always matches your inner state. The fear itself broadcasts lack, and lack is what answers. Most people believe that worrying about money is responsible, that if they just fret hard enough, strain hard enough, carry the weight seriously enough, they will somehow force a solution. But Florence taught the opposite. She taught that the anxious grip is exactly what keeps the good away. Think of it like this. She said that ships come in over a calm sea. When the water of your mind is stormy with worry, your good cannot reach the shore. But when you release the burden and the sea grows calm, your ships come sailing in. The burden is not just uncomfortable, it is the very thing blocking the harbor. And here is the tragedy. Most people carry the burden their whole lives, believing the carrying is helping, when the carrying is the block itself. And let me show you how this works in real life, because you have felt it without understanding it. Think of a time you desperately wanted something and could not get it, no matter how hard you tried. And then, the moment you finally gave up and stopped caring so intensely, it appeared, almost as if your letting go was the very thing that released it. That is this law in action. The desperate wanting was a form of the burden, a grip of anxiety that pushed the thing away, and the release opened the door. Florence taught that this is not a coincidence but a spiritual law, that what you anxiously chase flees from you, and what you calmly release is free to come. The burden of worry carries within it the seed of its own continuation, because worry is the feeling of not having, and the feeling of not having produces more not having. This is why two people can want the exact same thing with equal intensity, and the anxious one stays empty while the peaceful one is filled. It was never about wanting it more. It was about carrying the burden less. And Florence gave a beautiful image for this that is worth holding on to. She said your good is like a ship trying to come into harbor, loaded with everything you have asked for. But when the sea of your mind is churning with worry and fear, the waves are too rough, and the ship cannot dock. It circles offshore, unable to reach you, and you stand on the shore wondering why your good never arrives, not realizing that your own inner storm is keeping it out. But the moment you cast the burden and the sea grows calm, the waves settle, the water goes still, and the ship sails smoothly in and unloads its treasure at your feet. Your good was never far away. It was waiting just offshore for the storm of your worry to pass. Casting the burden is how you calm the sea and let your ships come in. The second piece is what casting the burden actually means, because it is not positive thinking and it is not pretending everything is fine. Casting the burden is a real act of release. Florence taught it as handing the entire weight of your problem to a power greater than your conscious mind, to what she called the Christ within, the deeper divine self that knows the way, when your conscious mind does not. When you cast the burden, you are not solving the problem by force. You are giving it to the part of you that can actually solve it. And stepping back, you are saying, I cannot carry this, and I do not have to. I hand it over, and I go free. The burden lifts because you have genuinely set it down, not buried it, not ignored it, but released it to a higher power. And this releasing is itself an act of faith, because you only let go of a problem when you truly trust it will be handled. The person who keeps gripping does not really believe. The person who casts the burden and walks away free is demonstrating the deepest faith of all. And Florence was careful to explain that this is not the same as giving up on your desire. Casting the burden does not mean you stop wanting your good or stop expecting it. It means you stop carrying the anxious weight of how and when it will come. You keep the desire. You release the worry. This is a crucial distinction, because some people hear let go and think it means abandon the wish entirely. But that is not it. You hold the wish lightly, with faith, while handing the heavy burden of doubt and fear and strain to the power within. You remain certain your good is coming. You simply refuse to carry the anxiety about it. Imagine holding something precious in an open palm rather than a clenched fist. The open palm still holds it, but without the desperate grip that is casting the burden while keeping the wish. You trust so completely that the matter is handled that you no longer need to strain over it. Now, before I give you the remaining 4 pieces, I have to stop and tell you something directly, because everything I am teaching you about casting the burden depends on one thing that almost nobody sustains on their own. You have to actually do it, again and again, every single day, because the burden does not stay cast the first time. Worry is a habit built over years, and the moment you set it down, the old anxious mind reaches to pick it right back up. The release has to be practiced daily until going free becomes your natural state, and most people simply cannot hold it alone. They cast the burden once, they feel the relief, and then within hours they have snatched it back and are carrying it again. This is exactly the problem I built the Overflow Covenant to solve. It is a 21-day sequence where one short Florence Scovel decree lands in your inbox every single morning, and each one guides you back to the state of release, of freedom, of trust. So the new habit of casting the burden actually takes hold, day by day for 21 days, which is the span it takes for going free to become automatic. You do not have to remember. You do not have to rely on willpower. The decree is simply there each morning, lifting the weight before the day can pile it back on. It is $27, one payment, no app to install, No platform to log into, just your inbox every morning for 21 mornings, and there is a 30-day full refund, so the risk is entirely mine. The link is in the description. It is called the Overflow Covenant. Begin it tonight, and let the first decree reach you in the morning. Now let me give you the third piece, which is exactly how to cast the burden, the precise way to do it so the weight truly lifts. Because there is a right way to release. First, you name the burden honestly. You do not pretend it is not there. You feel its full weight for a moment. The worry, the fear, the heaviness of the lack. You acknowledge it completely. Second, you consciously hand it over. You speak the release. I cast this burden of lack on the power within me, and I go free. And as you say it, you deliberately let the weight leave your shoulders. You imagine setting down a heavy pack you have carried for miles. Third, you feel the freedom that follows. This is the part most people skip. After you cast it, you must actually let yourself feel light, relieved, unburdened. You step into the feeling of one whose problem is already handled, whose good is already on its way. Fourth, when the worry tries to return, and it will, you do not fight it, you simply cast it again, calmly, as many times as needed. Each casting is easier than the last, until the free state becomes your home. This is how you cast the burden. You name it, you hand it over, you feel the freedom, and you recast it whenever it returns. And let me give you a way to make the release real in your body. Because casting the burden is not only a mental act, it is something you can feel physically. When you carry worry, your body carries it too. The tight shoulders, the clenched jaw, the knot in the stomach. So when you cast the burden, let your body release, along with your mind. Take a slow breath, and as you exhale, let your shoulders drop. Let the tension pour out of you. Feel yourself grow physically lighter as you hand the weight over. This physical release helps convince the deeper mind that the burden is truly gone. Florence taught that feeling is the secret, and the feeling of lightness, of relief, of a weight lifted, is what impresses the subconscious with your new free state. So do not just think the words, feel the unburdening in your whole being. And here is something important. You may need to cast the same burden many times before it stays gone. This is normal. Do not be discouraged when the worry returns. Do not think you have failed. Simply cast it again. Each time you do, you are strengthening the new pattern of release and weakening the old pattern of gripping. And over time, casting the burden becomes faster and easier, until one day you notice the worry barely takes hold at all. The fourth piece is why going free is the very thing that lets your good flow in. Because Florence taught that your good is always trying to reach you, that divine supply is constant and abundant and pressing toward you at every moment. The only thing keeping it out is the burden, the anxious gripping that clogs the channel. When you cast the burden and go free, you open the channel, you calm the sea, and the good that was always waiting comes rushing in. This is why the release works when the struggle never could. The struggle kept the channel closed. The release opens it. Think of a hand clenched into a tight fist. Nothing can be placed in it. It is closed. But an open hand, relaxed and free, can receive anything. The burden is the clenched fist. Casting it is the opening of the hand. And only the open hand can receive your good. This is the great paradox Florence taught, that you receive not by grasping harder, but by letting go completely. The calm, free mind is the receiving mind, and the good flows in the moment you stop blocking it with your worry. And there is a deeper truth here about trust that is worth understanding, because casting the burden ultimately rests on a belief that something greater than your anxious conscious mind is at work on your behalf. Florence called it the Christ within, the divine intelligence that knows the way. Others might call it the subconscious or the infinite, but the principle is the same. There is a power within you far wiser than your worried surface thoughts, and it can solve what your conscious striving never could. When you cast the burden, you are trusting that power to work. You are saying, I do not have to figure out every detail. I do not have to control the how. I hand it to the wisdom within me, and I trust it to arrange what I cannot. And this trust is what allows you to actually let go, because you cannot release a burden you believe only you can carry. The moment you truly know that a greater power has it handled, the weight simply falls away. And in that freedom, that calm, that trust, your good finds the open channel it was always seeking. The anxious mind blocks, the trusting mind allows, and casting the burden is how you move from one to the other. The fifth piece is the daily protocol for staying free, the rhythm that keeps the burden off your shoulders. Because casting it once is not enough. You must live in the state of release. In the morning, before the worries of the day arrive, you cast the burden first thing. You begin the day free and light. You set down whatever you were carrying before your feet even touch the floor. Through the day, you stay watchful. Every time you feel the weight creeping back, the tight chest, the anxious thought about money, you pause and you cast it again. You refuse to carry it. You keep handing it over. At night, as you drift towards sleep, you cast the burden one final time. You release the entire day, and you let yourself sleep in freedom, not in worry, so the release sinks deep while you rest. This is the rhythm. Cast in the morning, recast through the day, cast again at night, and you do it every single day. The people who transform their lives are the ones who make going free a daily practice, not a one-time attempt. The burden set down and kept down becomes the open channel your good flows through. And let me explain why each part of this rhythm matters so much. The morning casting sets your whole day free, because if you begin the day already carrying the weight, every event will feel heavier. But if you set the burden down before the day begins, you meet each thing from a place of lightness and trust. The guarding through the day matters, because the world is full of triggers that hand you the burden back, the unexpected bill, the moment of comparison, the worried thought that drifts in, and each one is an invitation to pick the weight up again. The discipline is to decline that invitation, to notice the burden creeping back onto your shoulders, and to gently set it down once more. And the night casting matters because the state you carry into sleep is impressed the deepest, so you refuse to hand your sleeping mind a night of worry. Instead, you release the entire day, every care, every fear, and you let yourself sink into sleep, free and light. And this daily rhythm of casting the burden is exactly what the Overflow Covenant is built to make, automatic. Because the hardest part is not understanding the release, it is remembering to do it again and again. When life keeps handing the weight back, the decree arrives each morning to lift the burden before the day can pile it on, and it becomes the practice you carry through the day and into sleep. So the state of freedom is guided for you, morning, day, and night, for 21 days, until living free of the burden is simply how you live. The sixth piece is the contrarian truth that struggling less brings more than all your effort ever could. And this overturns everything the world has taught you. The world says carry more, work harder, worry more, strain more, take the weight more seriously. But Florence taught that the burden was never yours to carry in the first place, that the straining and gripping is not noble. It is the very thing blocking your good. The person who carries the heaviest burden is not the most virtuous, they are the most blocked. And the person who has learned to cast the burden and walk free is not lazy, They are aligned with how supply actually flows. This does not mean you do nothing. It means you stop believing that anxious struggle is what creates. You act from a place of freedom and trust, not desperation, and action taken from that free state is effortless and effective, while action taken under the crushing weight of worry is exhausting and fruitless. The wealthy in spirit learn to set the burden down, to let the sea grow calm, and to let their ships come in, doing less of the anxious gripping and more of the calm trusting, brings more than all the strained effort in the world. And I want to address the guilt you may feel about setting the burden down, because many people have been taught that to stop worrying is irresponsible, that carrying the weight proves you care, that struggling shows you are trying, and so when they release the burden, a voice whispers that they are being lazy or careless. But Florence taught that this is exactly backward, that carrying the burden accomplishes nothing except blocking your good and exhausting your spirit. Worry has never once paid a bill or solved a problem. It only drains you and clogs the channel. Releasing the burden is not irresponsible. It is the most productive thing you can do, because it opens the very channel through which your solution must come. Think of how many hours of your life have been spent in anxious worry, and ask what any of that worry ever produced. Nothing but more worry. The calm, trusting, unburdened person is not the careless one. They are the one aligned with how life actually provides. They have simply stopped doing the one thing that was blocking them. And in that freedom, the good that struggle could never force comes flowing in of its own accord. Here is the whole picture. There is one reason your good has not come. You have been carrying the burden, gripping too tightly, and the anxiety itself has blocked the channel. When you cast the burden upon a power greater than your conscious mind, you go free, you calm the sea, and the good that was always pressing toward you comes flowing in. You name the burden, you hand it over, you feel the freedom, and you recast it whenever it returns, morning, day, and night, until the free state becomes your home. Every part of this is available to you starting today. The release has been explained, the practice has been given, and the only thing required is that you actually set the burden down, and keep it down. And let me leave you with one final thought about why this matters so deeply. The burden of money worry is one of the heaviest weights a person can carry. It follows you into your sleep. It sits on your chest in the early morning. It colors every decision and steals the joy from every good moment. And most people carry it for decades, believing they have no choice, believing the weight is simply the price of being alive. But Florence Scovel Shinn taught that you were never meant to carry it, that the burden is optional, that there is a power within you ready to take the whole weight the moment you are willing to hand it over. Imagine what your life becomes when that weight is gone, when you move through your days light and free and trusting, when your good flows to you through an open channel instead of being blocked by an anxious grip. This is not a fantasy. It is the natural state Florence said was always available to you. The burden was never yours. You only picked it up, and you can set it down, and the moment you do, and keep it down, everything begins to change. Before we close, I have to be direct with you one final time. The reason most people never find their freedom is not that they do not understand casting the burden. It is that they cannot hold the state of release on their own. They set it down and snatch it right back. The free state never takes hold. This is the entire reason the Overflow Covenant exists, to guide you back to freedom every single morning for 21 days. So the burden stays cast, so the channel stays open, so your good can finally flow. You can find it at the link in the description. 21 mornings. One decree each day, $27, 30-day full refund. So speak the release with me one final time before you go. I cast this burden and go free. My good flows to me now. My word is my wand. Hold that. And from this moment on, stop carrying what was never yours to carry. Set the burden down, go free, and let your good come flowing in.